All right, so we are moving to the last presentation of Impact Week, and we saved one of the best for last. I will say I have met a lot of people in this industry, and Joel comes with such excitement. Every time I talk to him, I learn something, even when we were just talking about this presentation and what he was thinking about talking about. So Joel has been in the industry for over 44 years, and he's the managing principal of Paradigm Group. He has created intellectual property known as the PRS plan and the roadmap, and he has served over 4,000 individuals, privately held companies and publicly traded firms. Joel has been, I think the last place Joel was Joel, was it the New York Times that you did the article for?
Yes.
Right at the beginning of the pandemic, talking about how, if people aren't thinking about doing planning now, they're never going to think about doing planning. Really an interesting article. If you haven't heard about it, go read it. Joel, thank you so much for being with us today. We're really looking forward to it.
Carla, thank you very much. It's a real honor and a pleasure to be involved with everybody here in the organization. So I was asked to kind of share my thoughts about what does it really take to really become successful in this business. And success is really defined by everybody in different ways. But I guess where it first starts is that every insurance-centric financial advisor, producer aspires to achieve extraordinary levels of success. But what's interesting of what I've found in the 44 years that I've been in the space is very few actually ever arrive at that destination, which also includes this balance of professional and personal time, because they do have to stay in balance with each other. And I've always believed that on Fridays, maybe you might do something in the morning, but Fridays just should be a day for you to enjoy what you enjoy and your family. And so what I was asked by Carla was, how did I end up writing 70 million of commissionable target premium over this 44-year career? And I had to pause to think about it for a few minutes, but after those few minutes, it really was really crystal clear. So let me share with you what I know. First is the concept of the yellow brick road. It's pretty simple. You've got to understand your cycle of business operations. You are running a business. And I have found, and by the way, over 4,000 people over the last 15 years have come out to either a roadmap university or a Solomon school. I didn't come up with that name on myself. Name was given to this 2.5-day training program I used to do by one of the senior executives of a major life insurance company. But what was really interesting about understanding the cycle of business operations, it allows you to constantly keep your eye on the prize. We all remember what happened with Dorothy and the rest of the characters in The Wizard of Oz. Once they kind of stepped off that yellow brick road, bad things happened. If you stay on the yellow brick road, which I'm going to share with you all, I promise you will get to Oz. The difficulty I have found, people in our business tend to just stray off that yellow brick road. So what's getting in the way? This is what I hear all the time. There's a lack of high quality prospects to speak with. They're certainly not all referrals. Imagine what would happen if you had 10 high quality referrals who were waiting for your call every month. Would we be worrying about writing 500,000, $1 million or more of commission income? Absolutely not. So the first key is, how do you develop this constant flow of high quality referrals of people who want to see you? The second one of what's getting in the way of success is prospects aren't buying. And I have found that many producers lack the tools or technical skill sets that can motivate clients to take action, meaning you're really not identifying the client's problems. If a client has a big enough problem that they recognize, not you, but they recognize, they will move heaven and hell to get rid of that problem. And generally, I've found that many in the business don't have enough sales tracks to follow that can actually solve client problems. So let's understand this business that we're in. And I am suggesting to you that this slide is one of the most important ones that I'm going to cover today. I learned this when I was 22 years old, when I started in the business with Connecticut General Life Insurance Company. It was the cycle of operations. So it starts off with having enough people to talk to. And you get to talk to them in three ways. First, personal observation. People are people and things are people. What do I mean by things are people? Let's suppose you're driving by a shopping center. That's a thing. However, I will guarantee you that whoever owns that big shopping center is probably a pretty good prospect. Or it's an office building. It's a thing. Who owns the office building? When you're driving in an industrial park, are you really looking at taking the time to prospect? Look at those buildings. How large are they? Look, if they're 2 million square feet, might be a little too big for you to prospect into. But think about the size of those buildings of what would make you believe that whoever owns that building or that business, it's probably a pretty good prospect. So the idea is you have to constantly be prospecting in that way. You have to constantly be prospecting by looking at newspapers, business journals, what's happening, who's who in business in your community. And you need to create this list of who you would ideally like to talk to. And every client that you work with, every center of influence that you work with, the idea is to always, at the end of the day, have a referral session, which I'm going to cover later, and ask that client, above and beyond all the people that they're going to naturally refer you to, Mr. Client, do you know this person or this person or this person, the people on your wish list? So let's start with 20 good clients. If you had 20 good clients or prospects, I should say, and you used a certain telephone script that didn't sound canned, with the only purpose to get an appointment, let's just say that 16 out of 20, especially if they were referred to you, are going to agree to an appointment. Then you're going to meet with them, and you better have some systematic thing you want to talk or show them that will engage them and that will lead them to discover what their problems are. So let's just suppose that 12 of those 16 people will work with you and you're going to obtain their goals. You're going to have a sit-down program construction kind of a session. You're going to construct whatever you think the solutions are to their problems. You're then going to present. And when you present, let's just say that a minimum of 1 out of 3. Now, if they're all referrals, that will jump to 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 will actually buy products from you. Then you're going to obviously deliver their financial plan, their policy, so on and so forth. And then the most important part of the entire cycle is the referral session. At the very end of today, I promise I'm going to give you the keys to the kingdom. I'm going to give you play by play what got me through this business for 44 years to the level of success that I was promised when I was 22, if I just would follow that yellow brick road. That referral session is the most important session you have with a client, and it is teed up at the very first meeting you have with the client when they ask you, and by the way, Joel, how do you get paid to solve my problems? Again, I'll cover that a little later. But in every referral session, minimum, you should get 10 high quality referrals via letter or email that's going to be sent from the client to those centers of influence. Now, let's also talk about collaboration and calls to action. I've listened to a lot of successful people in our business. They're really terrific at presenting, but they're not collaborating. They're not engaging the client. They're actually speaking to, presenting to. We don't want to do that. We want to be talking to them, pausing. Does that make sense? Do you understand why this is so important? Any questions about what I just covered? Is there anything else that concerns you about what I just covered? Because, Mr. Client, we can't move on to the next slide or next page, which builds on top of this building block of the page we just covered. So the most important 5 words you will ever learn is the "so with that in mind." Then it's followed by what we're going to do today is. When you get done presenting, whatever the solution, it is then a call to action moment. That moment is a critical moment because when you stop presenting, it is rare that that client jumps out of his seat, says, "Joel, that was one of the most fascinating presentations. What a difference you're making in my life and my family's life. What do I need to do to get started?" How many times does that happen to anybody here? They want to do it. And what they need is a gentle push, a gentle nudge. So when you get done, you say, "So Bob, with that in mind, what we're going to do today is," and then whatever it is you want them to do, schedule the exam, see if you qualify, blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah. So critical with that in mind in your practice. The key questions being asked by a client: are you on track? Will you have enough capital to live the way you want to live for the rest of your life when you retire? And if not, how much must you save annually to fund the projected deficiency? And what are the most efficient or tax efficient ways to accomplish your retirement and income objective without subjecting your principal to market risk? Come over if you want to. But what everybody wants to know is simply this: how much capital do I need at retirement to live the way I want to live for the rest of my life, adjusted for inflation? Now, by the way, this is all part of the typical PowerPoint that I use with a client, whether they're coming into my office, coming into their office. When I'm meeting with a brand new client, it's business. I'm not doing it breakfast. I'm not doing it lunch. I'm not doing it dinner. I want a big screen. I want to animate what I want to animate. I want them to see what I want them to see. And I want to say what I want them to hear at the same time that they're seeing it. People learn when they see and hear information you want to ask. So I'll shut up on it. So it's really a question of information. So how much cash would they need at age 65? The answer is pretty extraordinary. It's in excess of 3 million. And that's not in an IRA 401k, that's after tax. And that, of course, if you think about it a little bit more, here's a 50-year-old wanting to retire on $200,000 a year. We're talking about a $5 million bogey to get there. So the planning work that we in this business do is all about the what ifs. What happens if you live? How do we help you prepare for secure retirement? Assure that your kids are educated. If you die, and when you die, if you die prematurely, we need to fund fund family income, take care of college, survive displaced. Because think about it for a minute. In almost every case, somebody can buy $1 million of term insurance at minimum, depending on their age, for like $75 to $150 a month. What is it a day? How important is it for you to assure that those things and people you care about are protected? Mr. Client, you are the financial steward of your family's future. They count on you to be thinking about these things, and you need to count on me as your insurance-centric financial advisor to guide you through the quantitative analysis of what it takes to accomplish these goals. And many clients want to assure that their kids have some base financial security if they were to die, if the client was to die today. Let me give you an example. A child gets out of college, and now that kid is, say, 20 or 21 years of age. Is it unreasonable if a parent were to die that you might want to assure that your kid, no matter what, has $400 or $500 a week of income to just take care of basic necessities and a place to live, whether that's a $500,000, $250,000 home, or $2 million home, depending on where you live and what your goals are. But for about $1.5 million of coverage, I can provide a 22-year-old, if I were to die today and I had a 22-year-old child, I can provide about $40,000 a year of tax-free income and provide $500,000 paid off home. So when you talk to a client about how would you feel emotionally if you knew that by an action step we were going to take today, with money that you probably waste, we're only talking about, $100 or $150 a month, you would know if something did happen to you prematurely, that the base needs of your children are taken care of going forward. And the last thing is, what if you become disabled? And if you become disabled, there is the question of, do you have 2/3 of your current income coming in on a tax-free basis? And if you need some type of home health care, assisted living, or nursing home, have we taken care of that? What a spouse does not sign up for is to literally wipe somebody's butt who they love if they're not a baby. It's not only the physical challenges of taking care of a loved one who is an adult, male or female. It's the emotional burden. It is critical that one spouse never puts that other spouse in the position of exhaustion, mentally and physically, over trying to care for another person who can't care for themselves. So these three things you see here: what happens if you live, what happens if you die, what happens if you become disabled, are the, if you will, pillars of the kind of services that we're going to provide clients. How about premature death, Mr. Client? You get hit by the proverbial drunk driver on the way home today. It never going to happen to me. It only happens to everybody else. But if something did happen to you today, how much capital would be required to take care of your family members? And just shut up. Mr. Client, forget about how much life insurance you have, how many assets you have. Forget that side of the equation. I'm just focusing on the goal. How much capital would you need today in order to make those goals come true if you did get killed by that proverbial drunk driver? And most everybody has no clue what that answer is. Let me give you a quick example. So this is using our what's called roadmap software. So here I have, let's say, a client who has a spouse age 45. And if this client died, he wants to assure that the spouse has $100,000 a year of tax-free income that's going to adjust for 2.5% inflation between now, her age 45, and her age 85. $100,000 a year. Moreover, they have a $400,000 mortgage And we calculated for the client their future college costs are unfunded by 150,000. So today, lump sum, we need to make sure we've got 550,000 if the client died, plus an amount to provide this 100,000 a year adjusted for 2.5% inflation. Now look at this chart. What you see on this chart, there's the 550,000 we need to pay off the mortgage and take care of the college fund. Moreover, here's the 100,000 of tax-free widow income adjusting for 2.5% inflation. And you'll see these numbers continue to get bigger and bigger over time. And let's assume for a minute that the client's investment folk can invest money for the surviving spouse at 4% after tax. The amount of capital required if death occurred today is 3.7 million to accomplish those objectives. This is the quantifiable analysis. And you'll notice it's not a chart. It's a chart with an animating PowerPoint, arrows, things that point out what you want to point out in a very dramatic way. So this client's number, if they died today, is 3.7 million. We haven't talked about what assets they have, cash in the bank, brokerage account, IRAs, 401ks, life insurance. This is just the goal. The goals: pay off the mortgage, take care of the college, and provide 100,000 of tax-free income. We need about $4 million in order to do that. So now what I want to shift to is what I think your goals should be to really get to the level of success that everybody wants to reach. One, no matter what, you must have a constant monthly supply of a minimum of 10 high-quality referrals who want to see you on a favorable basis. You're also running a real business. You have to plan. You have to monitor your results daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. And as you see what's working or not, you adjust your activity accordingly. And by doing this, you will arrive at your destination. It's sort of like, I live here in Newport Beach, California. If I was going to New York and I drove up to Los Angeles to catch the flight, I wouldn't want my pilot to only point the plane easterly. I might get to New York. So there's a flight plan, just like there's a business plan that you develop. There is an exact destination in mind. I want to write $1 million of commissions. Well, based on the average size case, based on your ratios of when you see a prospect, what percentage of them want to work with you? And of those who want to work with you, what percentage of them buy? And when they buy, what is your average sale? If you have this belief about those statistics, and that's part of your plan, then what you do on a weekly and monthly basis, you monitor those results. Is it working the way that you're planning? You are in complete control of your destiny if you believe that you are in control of the action steps that you take daily that will get you there. And I'm going to share with you now what some of those might be. So think about this as well. When we're acquiring life insurance, it's always a question of how much, what type, and we want the client to win both ways. It's a lot easier for a client to want to buy this wonderful product that we offer, both benefiting the family when he or she dies and if he lives. Isn't it better to put money? Think about term insurance. By the way, love term insurance, love permanent insurance. There's a place for both. And term, I love for temporary needs. It's just that a lot of us have way more permanent needs than temporary needs. And I hate the idea of an expense. So what do I mean by that? say I pay $1,000 term premium. On the 365th day of the year, do I wake up in the morning and say, God, I hope I die today so that I can get a payoff on the $1,000 I gave to the insurance company to get $1 million of insurance? Because if I don't die on that 365th day, I have forfeited that money to the insurance company. Well, how about if I said, Mr. Client, what if we laid out $1,500 a year, but at the end of 10 years, if you don't die, what if I told you that all of the premium you paid would be there for you so you would have no net cost, defined as cumulative premiums paid versus cash value. So if I've paid 10,000 and my cash value is 10,000, what was my net cost? 0. So term has its place. I always like to add, my clients hate expenses. They prefer to build assets. Does that sound like you, Mr. Client? Yes. Well, I'm going to show you how to acquire insurance as an expense, but it still is going to give you that emotional security that you're accomplishing your objectives. But I'm also going to show you how to make it an asset. And the largest banks in the country, the largest corporations in the country, they don't buy much term insurance, and there's a reason for that. I want you to ask probing questions. And by the way, if you just take this presentation and just print it out, look at it, follow it, you'd be shocked at what's going to happen. Let me give you an example. After I meet a prospect, and I always want to ask that client, how did you build this incredible business? Tell me about your family. Tell me about all the achievements. What do we know about men? Now, I'm not trying to just say you should work with men or women. I'm just for a moment talking about men. Men love to talk about themselves. They want to talk about why the opposing team wouldn't kick to them because they were such an incredible punt returner or kick returner. They want to tell people about their past. Give them a chance to do it when you meet them, to bond with them personally. And then the first words out of your mouth should be, Mr. Client, from a financial perspective, what, if anything, is keeping you up at night? And just shut up. That client will almost assuredly tell you what's bothering them. If that doesn't work, Mr. Client, how much capital would you estimate you need at retirement to live the way you want to live for the rest of your life, adjusted for inflation? And zip it. He's going to say, I really don't know. And Mr. Client, if something happened to you today, how much capital would be required to take care of your family members and things you care about, like church, community, college, and other charities? And just shut up. If you would just memorize these 3 probing questions, I promise you will knock it out of the park converting prospects to clients. I promised you in the beginning that I was going to talk about how to build this referral-based business, and let me show you what it takes. Here is a sample referral email that clients write to people that they want me to meet with. Take a read. Just a short note to introduce Joel Solomon, who did some terrific financial work for me. He showed me exactly where I stood on the path to a secure future and how to receive more tax-free retirement income than I would have received otherwise. No matter who you use for your financial advice, including tax professionals, brokers, wealth managers, insurance professionals, and attorneys, I can't more highly recommending you're spending an hour with Joel. I only hope you benefit as much as I have. Now, picture your client writing that email to all those people that respect him personally and professionally, who he thinks you would enjoy working with, and who would likely benefit from the work that you do. When a client sends that email, the guy or gal on the other end of the phone is waiting for your call. And by the way, you know what happens when you make the call? Listen to this. I dial, the prospect that I'm referred to answers. Hello, the client says, prospect says. And let's just say his first name is Bob. And let's say the person referred me to him was Henry. Bob, like, I just have to tell you, you have a real love affair apparently with Henry. He just thinks you are absolutely fantastic and made me promise no matter what that I would reach out to see if I can help you. Now, the next words out of that guy's mouth are, who is this? This is Joel Solomon. I'm the person that Henry wrote that introductory email to you about why you and I should at minimum spend about 30 minutes together getting to know each other. And I promised Henry that I would reach out right away to talk to you. So tell me, how long have you known him? I don't go to close the appointment. I start talking about that relationship. And no matter what that prospect says, or if he tries to get out of meeting me, I'm going to say, Bob, let me ask you a question. Have you ever received a written email from somebody like Henry telling you why it's so important, no matter who you work with today, that you should meet with me? Of course you haven't. So with that in mind, let's do this. Let's just get this over with. I don't want to commit to spending 4 hours with you. I know you don't want to do that with me, but I will promise you this. It'll be one of the most important and different and influential 30-minute meetings you've ever had. So with that in mind, I'm all booked up until next Wednesday. I've got one time slot available on Wednesday and one on Thursday. What does your availability look like? So this is piece one, getting the client to send that written email. When you then meet with that client after you've disturbed them and that client wants to meet with you, sooner or later, the client wants to know how you get paid to do what you do. So here's an example of what I say, and I also have this in my PowerPoint presentation that I always use when working with a client. Wording is a little different in the PowerPoint. So I don't know whether the people on this call, some of you might, charge fees, fixed fee for planning or an hourly fee, or you charge for assets under management. So that's what number one deals with. Number two, Mr. Client, let's talk about financial products. You'll remember we spoke about what happens if you live, what happens if you die, what happens if you become disabled. I represent you, not the financial institutions. If you have a need, I'll recommend the appropriate financial product. Then I'll search the marketplace for the top 2 financial products to meet that need. I'll explain the differences, both quantitatively and qualitatively, as to why one product versus another. And if you purchase that financial product, the financial institution pays a commission to me. But know this, I will only make a recommendation to you that if our situation was reversed, that I would want you to recommend to me. I approach every client from a fiduciary perspective. Has nothing to do with how little or how much I make. It's about making a difference in my clients' lives. And if I do that, no matter what the remuneration from a financial product on a commission that I get paid for a product that you need, and because I am marrying you and your need with that financial institution, for that service, the institution pays me. Now, this has to make sense to these clients, and it reassures them that you are only there for them. And Mr. Client, the most important way I get paid is your act of goodwill. After I complete my work, if it has been phenomenal and most valuable, what I call PV, then we'll sit down and talk about those people who respect you professionally and personally, who would benefit from the work that I do and that I would enjoy working with. But only when we're done with our work and you believe the work was phenomenal and most valuable. Is that fair enough? Now, if that client has already received that email, referral introductory email, this all makes perfect sense. That's how you got to him in the first place. And your business will just grow and grow and grow, and you'll have more referrals than you can possibly handle. Now, how do we jumpstart you into this? So this slide, critically important. You're going to make a list of your top 10 current clients. And you're going to take a yellow pad and a pen, and you're going to take them to lunch or dinner. And after chit-chatting about their family, their golf game, whatever the heck it might be, you're going to say, Bob, I don't know if you realize this, but I spend 99% of my time working on my client's behalf and only 1% looking for new clients. I'd like to grow my business over the next few years, and I really need your help. The key is having an opportunity on a favorable basis of meeting professionals like you who would benefit from the services I provide, my experience, and integrity in representing my clients. So with that in mind, who are some business owners and other professionals who respect you professionally and personally that you believe might potentially benefit from meeting me and who I would enjoy working with? And you should have in your yellow pad or in a briefcase, you should have a list of who you think he or she might know. Country club, church, community. Think about who he is associated with, right? You know this client. Who are the other businesses that are within a block or eyesight of that client? You need to look at his LinkedIn page if he has a LinkedIn page. So here are my takeaways for today for you before we open this up to Q&A. I believe you are in complete control of your destiny. Complete control. All you have to do is follow what I think is the yellow brick road to Oz. Yes, you can ask 2 people per day using a telephone script about the adverse taxation of their IRA, 401k, and pension plans. Now, today I'm not going to go through what that script is, but think about what you might want to say there. You could ask 2 people a day, Bob, I haven't asked you this question, but from a financial perspective, what, if anything, is keeping you up at night? You can ask 2 people a day, Bob, don't tell me what you wasted on, but Bob, how much would you say you waste every month on whatever that means to you? And you'll hear them say 200, 500, 1,000, 2,000. Basically, we're just going to take half of whatever they're wasting and we're going to put it into a policy, and you're going to run an illustration. If you can be consciously, listen to what I'm going to say, consciously present, everybody you talk to, you're going to ask one of these 3 questions every day. And the last one, and Bob, what do you think about what just came out of the House Ways and Means Committee with respect to taxation? How do you think that's going to impact you? What do you think these people are going to say? They don't have a clue. You are the person that can help them solve their problems and strategically map their financial future. That's what we do. And the result, if you just would do this, you will write 300,000 to 500,000 of more commission income than you did the day before. And I promise you, there's no exaggeration in these numbers. In summary, yes, you can. 1, develop your unique business plan. Without a business plan, you're rudderless. Yes, you'll sell stuff. Yes, you'll make some money, but you're never going to get to a very specific destination. You must monitor daily, weekly, and monthly results. And ask yourself honestly, what is lacking in me as a professional? Can I zig instead of the zagging that you're doing today? For example, we all have our routines. For example, I wake up in the morning, I walk down the steps here in my home, I go into the kitchen, I open the closet door, I get out the coffee container, I get out a filter, I go over to, there is a literal process, a routine that I go through. I could change that process. You have a switch on the wall, a light switch. If you flip it up, you are in control of your future. If you keep that light switch in the down position, you still might reach the levels of success that I'm describing. But most assuredly, you're going to be zigging and zagging to get there. You're not going to be on a specific straight road to Oz. And at all times when you're interacting with your clients, it is critical that you're always acting in a fiduciary manner and interactively. Pause, ask questions, shut up. I learned something a long time ago from Wilson Counselor Selling. Here's the process. Closed-end question, open-end question, paraphrase, share the concern, paint the benefit, close. Let me give you an example. Closed-end question. Do you have a will? It's a yes or no. Closed-end. Open-end question. Tell me how it works, or why don't you have a will today? Open-end question. Client has to talk, describe. Paraphrase. So if I understand you correctly, what you're doing today is, with regard to your wills and trusts, concern. Well, what really concerns me about that is, and you're going to explain what the concern is. Next, paint the benefit. Mr. Client, one of the benefits of working with me is I will be able to solve, or I will be able to improve, I will be able to take care of, and then last, close. So with that in mind, let's talk a little bit more about those goals. And by the way, I'm gonna, do you have any of these documents? So however you would close to move that client to take action. Notice, so with that in mind, what we're gonna do today is, it's that philosophy that's so important. So what you see here is me in the backyard with my boy Archie. We have two wonderful pit bulls that we've rescued. They're wonderful dogs. And I just want to take a moment first to wish everybody the best of health, wealth, and really making a difference in the world, because we make a difference in people's lives. Now, become everything you ever dreamed of becoming in this fabulous business, because you really can. Carla, that's what I have for today.
Oh, Joel, that was awesome. Thank you so much. Tell us a little bit, how long did it take you to become a black belt in asking these questions? And, you know, I mean, this is truly, if you, like you said, if you follow this golden brick road, you will reach financial success. But how long did it take you to master it?
I was very fortunate. I had some incredible mentors when I started in the business. So I was selected by Connecticut General with two other gentlemen that were much older to go through a very significant training program. So it was about 8 hours a day, a couple hours of study at night on income, estate tax law, actuarial sciences, et cetera. But what I believed, and I'm getting to the answer of your question, what I believed was these people in this institution, Connecticut General, they knew what the yellow brick road was. So whatever they taught me, Carla, I learned it. I mean, I learned it and I learned it and it became ingrained. And the most important thing they taught me was, if I would just see, now for all of you with Northwestern Mutual or other carriers who might say you need to say 10 or 15 people a day, it was prospecting, it was learning those terms from a financial perspective, what's keeping you up at night. So very quickly, I don't know that I was a black belt, but I was pretty good in about 6 months. I was relatively effective out there. And I would say it probably took me 4 or 5 years to really get to that place where I could say I was really pretty good at it. And let me reassure everybody, I sharpen my tools every day. Every day, there are certain things that I'm reviewing, because if I stay sharp and I don't have to stumble on what I want to say, like those probing questions, I mean, I'm just telling you, by asking a client from a financial perspective, what's keeping you up at night, you don't have to get a PhD in financial planning or insurance planning to actually have the client get stumped and say, I don't know. So I would say 5 or 6 years, I would say I was pretty much black belting. And, you know, the greatest thing that happened, Carla, as people came out and would come to a Solomon School training, I had this opportunity to also learn from 4,500 of the country's best insurance-centric financial advisors. So I constantly learn from them, and I go to as many industry functions as I can to constantly learn and grow my practice.
We've been asked, can you please show that the 20 prospect circle again?
Sure.
And while you're pulling that up, you know, I've got a lot of comments here that just keep talking about, Joel, thank you for reminding me about doing things consistently and being consistent and staying consistent and sharpening my saw. I think that's resonated with a lot of people, and you do this business for a long time and you've been, you know, you become fairly successful at it, and you think some people just kind of let it go on without sharpening their saw every day. So,
and Carla, let me make a comment. My daughter Paige and I were talking last night a little bit on this very subject. You know, some of us have different gifts that have been given to us strictly through our parents. Others maybe don't have as many of those natural gifts, whatever those might be. So regardless of where you start, it's a function of how much commitment are you going to make to get better, to learn more, to practice your presentations. Do you prepare for every telephone call or presentation? Do you really prepare where you've presented to either somebody in your office or just say it out loud, and what the closing words are going to be? It's amazing when I talk to very successful people, they're often stumbling. So I think preparation is also critically important, Carla.
Preparation, consistency. There's one more question. What do you do? How do you respond when you're asking one of your clients for a referral, if they get a little squishy with you and don't want to necessarily give you a name? How do you respond to that?
So first, I've covered that up front, right? So we already talked in the beginning. Let's think about two possible approaches. The first one is you're talking to a prospect who has not been referred to you, and that client wants to work with you, and you have them agree in advance that if the work was phenomenal and most valuable, that client will sit down, because that client would want to share something that's incredible. I use phenomenal and most valuable. If you went to the best brand new Italian restaurant and it was the greatest food you've ever eaten, and your best friend is Henry, do you not want to tell Henry about how incredible the restaurant is? And by the way, you might not want to, because you want to be able to get reservations when you want to, and the more people that know about it. I'm kidding about that. Of course, you want to share something or somebody where you've had an incredible, phenomenal, and most valuable experience. If that client later on, after you've done the work and you've agreed in advance on the referral process, is hesitating, one, Bob, remember what we agreed to, but what concerns me more, did you not believe that the work that we just accomplished, are you saying it wasn't phenomenal and that valuable? Because if you don't believe that, certainly I don't want you referring me to anybody. So Bob, how do you that's the way that I covered it. It's happened a few times. I've also had prospects that in the beginning would say, I'm sorry, I don't refer anybody, even if I got referred to that client. Really? So you wouldn't refer somebody that's really pretty incredible? They say no, because maybe you're going to cause some problems for that person. If I sense that's a problem up front, won't work for the client, because the most important way I get paid is active goodwill. Because without this referral session, what are you? You are out of business. You have to have this flow of new people coming into your store to buy what is on your shelf. I don't want to waste time making money on a commission when it won't help me. It's like somebody that's in the theater business, right? They create a play. They have to sell tickets every day. Now, if the critics say this play sucks, it's horrible, we all know it's going to happen in ticket sales. But if that critic says, my God, Joel Solomon, he's incredible, you've got to meet with him. It's your job to have that client feel that way. And not only does he refer in writing when we start, but when he or she is on the third tee talking to his or her buddies, do you think that person on the third tee is going to say, hey, everybody, before I tee off, let me tell you about Joel Solomon. I just bought $5 million of insurance. He's the best insurance-centric financial advisor in the country. You really think people are going to do that? No, they're not. But what they will do is think about who those people are on that first tee, or who are the people sitting around their Thanksgiving table. And they need to make a difference in their lives by introducing us to the people that they care about.
That is perfect. I think that is a great end to our 3-day jam-packed 9-session Impact Week. Joel, I'm so happy you finished this off for us. Thank you. If someone didn't get anything from this, call me, because I want to meet you. I really appreciate your support and all of your knowledge. So thank you so much for ending Impact Week. And thank you. And thank you everyone who joined us for these 3 days. And especially thank you to Pack Life, who has become our first 2022 sponsor. And we are very excited to continuing this program in the new year. So we look forward to hearing from everybody. Thanks so much and have a great week.
Bye, everybody.